our roles. Let's grab a seat if we haven't got one already. Come to stillness. And welcome to the last of our assemblies in this room for term 1. Next week we will gather on that last day, which is the Wednesday next week, in the McKennery Centre, as we always do, for our end-of-term prayer and blessing, with, of course, a special focus on the end of Lent and Easter, which falls at the end of next week. At that time, today, Mr. Waugh will lead us through the last of his reflections for Lent, and he'll, of course, touch on some moments of kindness in his culture of kindness. We'll hear a report from the Cattle Club, who recently returned from Warwick, and before that from Bell. So the local show circuit in southeast Queensland has started, and our Cattle Club boys have been very busy in that space. So we'll hear a report from our Cattle Club President and Vice President. Our college student leaders will address us coming towards the end of the GPS season with the last round this week. Digger will talk to us about our continuing support, and we will also observe Harmony Day with a great video that the seniors have put together. Mr. Thompson will address us as always, and then the moment you're all waiting for, the announcement of the winners of the Interhouse Cross Country Shield and the presentation to the winning prefects. I know you can't wait. As we start and come together on this land that we have occupied for the last 135 years, we acknowledge the thousands and thousands of years of history and law that stretch back into the beginnings of time. And we thank the Undumbi people of the Turrbal lands and waterways for their continued hospitality, their continuing presence. We pay our respects to all Australians of First Nation descent gathering with us today in this room. And so let's begin with prayer.
Good morning, colleagues and students. I'm very aware that we enter now into the final stages of Lent, and as Mr. Murray just said, we'll conclude our school term together next Wednesday with a liturgy that has a significant focus on Lent, Holy Week, Easter Sunday, etc. But can I just remind you of those 3 pillars, those 3 calls that we're asked to meet during Lent? Sacrifice, giving something up so that you feel a sense of struggle and you can use what you've given up to make someone else's life better. Charity, and we saw some really good examples of that last week when nearly $1,000 was raised for Share the Dignity through your generosity and kindness. So that idea of charity. And the final one being prayer. While I touch on prayer, gentlemen, many of you may have taken the opportunity to come into the chapel on Fridays during Lent while our mission and identity prefects have led us in some really meaningful reflections and rituals. There's been staff coming in. It's been a really powerful experience. Gentlemen, our final Lenten prayers for the year will be this Friday at first break. Whether you've been to every single one or whether you haven't been at all, on behalf of those M&I prefects, I want to warmly welcome you to come along to the chapel. The entire ritual takes 10 minutes, but it may just give you a chance to sit in the most sacred part of our school, to reflect, to listen to the scriptures of the day, and to maybe allow you to be a better person. So this Friday at first break, I warmly welcome you to join us for our Lenten prayers. But for our prayer this morning, I want to touch on once more this period of Lent. And so I invite you to make the sign of the cross with me while I read our prayer together. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen. Lord, as we enter the final weeks of Lent, may we be inspired to continue to reflect on how we can be more faithful to your example and teachings. Help us to sacrifice, to give, and to pray so that your will may be seen in our thoughts, words, and actions, and live Jesus in our hearts forever. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Gentlemen, to finish the term, I've got 4 examples of cultures of kindness, and what I'm really pleased is that I didn't take all the photos. They were actually being emailed to me by students and staff saying, hey, what about this as a great example? There are also other examples that I could talk to today where people have told me about them afterwards, but I didn't get a photo, and so I just didn't want to put them up for today. But I do invite you as we move into next term. Obviously, you won't have your phone on you from 8:30 to 3, but if you do see examples across the weekends after school, take a photo of it. Please don't try and stage it. It's normally pretty understandable, and I can work out what's genuine and what's not. Email it through to me, and we'll see if we can acknowledge your friend or brother for that kindness, or that staff member, which is also incredibly welcomed. First one I have here is from last week, where Ted, one of our Year 12 seniors, big brother, boarder, took the opportunity to help a young Year 6 lad out as he prepared for his excursion to Parliament. Obviously, for a lot of our Year 5, 6s, younger secondary school students, it might be difficult to do a tie-up. So to have some of our Year 12 boys step in and help out is certainly appreciated. I understand this took about 3 or 4 times to master, but obviously once we got there, it really allows that Year 6 boy to feel more comfortable and confident. Speaking of younger secondary students, this next image is one that I took myself in the boarding dining hall a couple of weeks ago. Every now and again, it's extremely rare. A boarder might, on the way to placing their plate and cutlery over to be washed, might drop the plate. Now, at times the reception isn't great when that happens, but on this particular occasion it was. Because young Josh, who dropped the plate there, was absolutely devastated. Maybe he'd had a bit of a bad day. The story behind why Josh was really upset, we may not know. But rather than a bunch of other boys literally going, right, see you mate, I'm out, we're off, it was more than just Michael and Digby that are pictured there that stopped. I know that Xander stopped. I know that Josiah stopped. And a group of boys rushed into the kitchen, they got the broom and the bucket, they literally got down on their hands and knees, picked up the food, the glass, to ensure that Josh, in his time of remorse and regret, wasn't feeling it too badly. So a shout out to those Year 7 boys for really stepping up to the time. The third image I have, I probably could have had 1,000 examples, because when we had cross country last week, there were multiple times when boys either tripped and fell, particularly in that running with the Bulls Pamplona start there, but also throughout the course. What I absolutely love about this place is, yes, Nudgee aspires to win in the different competitions we enter, but it's never just about the winning, as I spoke to earlier in the term. I loved that when blokes who were giving their all at cross country neared the final 200-300 metres and they aren't natural athletes and they're not super fit and they're probably thinking 3Ks feels like 35Ks, that blokes that had already finished the race doubled back and run alongside them as buddies, cheering them on in a genuine way, not a patronising way, a genuine way to say, come on, keep going. I love that our Year 12 leaders stood along the lines of the track and encouraged those guys who found it hard. So as I said, this is just one of probably 30 examples of this that I saw across the day and that people have spoken to me about. It's great to see Nudgee spirit throughout sport. The final image I have to you is also about sport, but it goes beyond just the competitive realms of GPS and our deep rivalry with St Joseph's Gregory Terrace. Obviously, it was a tough week last week for some sports. The debaters were unfortunately beaten on the Friday evening. The volleyballers were beaten on Saturday. A story that I hope doesn't simply go under the radar, though, is that our cricketers, who have copped some pretty unlucky defeats in the last few weeks, including at home to State High and away at Southport, were able to beat Terrace, to at least put a little cherry on the top of what was otherwise a hard weekend. But that's not what the kindness is about in this image. Pictured here is Sid Bates. Sid's a Year 11 student. He took 5 for something. According to some of his peers, he bowled really well. Others said he just kind of skittled the tail, so let's not get too carried away. But what I love about this image is that you may clearly note that on Sid's nose and cheeks there is pink zinc. The Gregory Terrace community had a really difficult couple of weeks with a number of students from Terrace hearing that mums, aunties, sisters had been diagnosed with breast cancer. Therefore, the Gregory Terrace community was in quite a state of mourning. There was some sadness. And the Terrace community decided that to acknowledge that support and solidarity, just as we do here, they would invite members of their first 11 team to wear pink zinc instead of the traditional white that cricketers wear. When our first 11 heard this, They took it upon themselves to go to Terrace, their captain, and say, can we have some pink zinc? We want to walk in solidarity with you. So to Spencer and to Charlie and to Sid and to the other members of that first 11 side, to look well beyond the bounds of competition and instead say, we stand in solidarity with you in this time of difficulty, shows what nudgy, spirit, ticker, heart, all of that stuff is about. So for me, forget Sid's fifer, this image speaks of kindness. Gentlemen, thank you for what you do. Let's finish strong. I wish you the very best of luck in your exams, and I invite some members of our cattle club to come and address you. Thank you.
Good morning, staff, Christian brothers and students. My name's Oliver Creswell and I'm your 2026 captain for the show team. Cattle Club is a program we run in which we raise, care and present cattle in some of the many shows we participate in every year. As a part of our program, stakeholders range from studs, commercial and even students donate their cattle for us to show and present on their behalf. Currently, just beyond the flats of our school, we have 25 head of cattle, and every Monday and Wednesday, we hone our showing skills by leading, haltering, and taming the cattle, and we also practice our skills with parading and judging. This is so every show we put our best foot forward to represent the school and present our cattle for their owners. I will now hand over to our Vice Captain, Will Reid.
Good morning all. This year we will be taking 6 shows which will include Bell, Warwick, Roma, Toogoolawah, Eckhart and Lismore shows. These are the best opportunities for us to compete against other schools with agricultural programs and promote our program. Recently in week 5 we had the Bell show. This was a great success as we took out Grand Champion Droughtmaster Bull, Calf and Bull and Reserve Champion Bradford Bull. This show and many others are a great opportunity to build connections in our community and support the many friendly locals and studs of Bell. Again, more recently, we had the Warwick show, this previous weekend in which we had 15 boys with 9 head representing our school. We found success in our Droughtmaster cow and calf receiving 2nd and winning Grand Champion Tropical Bulls with our Bradford Bulls. Our Droughtmaster Bull also received Reserve Grand Champion Junior Bull, while our 2 young steers got good ring experience for the upcoming Ekka show. We also found success in our paraders and overall representation has received many commendations. Congratulations to Lockie Patterson for making it to the finals for the Southern Downs Regional Sub-Chamber Young Judges. Overall, on the road, we have had a great experience. We have seen many successes for the college, and this will reflect through the rest of our year. Thank you all.
Good morning, Mr. Thompson, CLT, parents, special guest, staff, and of course, my Nudgy brothers. Throughout this term, we've heard a lot about gratitude from a number of different people. Whether it's Ethan being grateful for the opportunity to be at the school after leaving Roma, Vinny's gratitude towards his teachers that push him every day in the classroom, or even the gratitude that Mr. Walsh shares with us every assembly through the culture of kindness. It is obvious that gratitude is a very prevalent topic in our college at the moment. So as we gather for our last assembly of the term, I would also like to hop on that very same gratitude train. And today, I'm privileged to share with you how grateful I am for Nudgy Spirit. And pushing past that, I would also like to share with you and when and where I've seen other people be grateful for Nudgy Spirit. But you may ask, how can one be grateful for Nudgy Spirit? And to that, I would like to respond with a story from my time in the mighty second day rowing crew earlier this term. It was at the week 5 regatta where I had a pretty mediocre 2K race. After coming out second through the first 500, I caught a crab, which in non-rowing terms is putting your oar in the water incorrectly, which causes the whole boat to pretty much stop. We then proceeded to finish third last, and after crossing that finish line, my breaths were frantic, I could not feel my forearms, and I was really disappointed in myself for crabbing. But as we rode back towards the Nudgee tent, we were met with an unexpected yet heartwarming cheer from the supporters hill by a mixed group of Nudgee students and parents. This simple act actually gave me goosebumps and forced a smile through the immense pain I was in. You see, Nudgee spirit isn't about flooding the grandstand for rugby. It's the small actions that speak louder than words ever could. And in that moment, those cheers provided an immediate fix to the agonising pain I was in, which is why I was so grateful. Moving past just my experience, I've also seen gratitude through many other members in our community. I've seen it in the faces of some of our younger debaters, like Jack Williams, when they walk into a flooded teeny auditorium after their debate. They're grateful for the overwhelming support that their sport is finally receiving. I've seen it in our boarders when they receive help from the teachers during boarders study. They're grateful for the staff that sacrifice their evenings to stay at school and help them with assignments. I've seen it in our first team members, looking at the spirit posters on Friday morning. They're grateful for the group of boys who spent up to 3 hours of their Thursday evening drawing and hanging up those posters. But it was this Saturday at Terrace where I saw the absolute pinnacle of gratitude for Nudgee spirit. After losing a 5-set thriller of a premiership deciding volleyball match, Flynn Toomey stepped forward to address and thank our crowd, as the captain always does. And as his teary eyes met mine, I saw the complete and utter gratitude for the support, the crowd, and ultimately, the Nudgee spirit that was present at Terrace that day. His boys gave it all they had on the court, and our crowd cheered all we could in the grandstands. Regardless of the result, that's what spirit is. So as we move into the final round of GPS fixtures, we have BBC at home. For all the seniors, this is the last time you will ever get to watch a debate, volleyball, or cricket match in the blue and white blazer. So I cannot encourage you enough to show up this weekend to finish your senior year well. 6:15 in Teenie on Friday night. It's the last time we'll get to see Troy and the boys debate. Then Saturday, come early for the cricket, move to the volleyball and see the twos battle for our undefeated premiership, then watch our first six give it one final crack as we secretly cheer on Grammar. Before heading back to the beautiful Ross Oval and enjoy one final afternoon watching our beloved cricketers bring it home. And for the rest of the school, it hasn't mattered whether it's been home or away, we have outnumbered every single school in debating crowds so far this term. So don't let that end this weekend. Come along if you want to be a part of something special. Finally, as we head into term 2, I remind you all to keep showing up regardless of the result, because that's what spirit is, and that's what Nudgee spirit is. Just quickly, the video that's soon to be played is for Harmony Day, which was last Saturday. Harmony Day is about the foundational idea which everyone belongs, and the video is starred by everyone's favourite, Toby Collier. Thank you, have a great week.
Today we come together to celebrate Harmony Day.
We gather as a Nudgee College community.
Harmony Day reminds us of the fundamental truth: everyone belongs.
But belonging is not just a word, it's a commitment we make to one another.
Regardless of where we come from.
We recognise that our true strength is found through our diversity.
Together our voices are louder.
Together our impact is greater.
In this community, there is a place for everyone.
Because we are 10,000 brothers.
And together we're 10,000 strong. You belong.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's a short and sharp assembly this morning, and I've got just a couple of messages that I want to share with you before I hand over to Mr. Horrocks and that very important news that we heard that we're all waiting to hear about regarding the cross country. I want to welcome you to nearly the conclusion of term 2. No doubt all of you are in the midst of huge amounts of commitments with regards to your assessments and exams that are coming up. It's wonderful to see both Will and Ollie up here, and I always say it, and for some people, it's often the first time that they've got up and spoken to a crowd like this in their life, and for many of you, this may be the biggest crowd that you ever address if you stand before the Nudgee College community.
So well done, gentlemen, for getting up here and delivering that great news about the Cattle Club. I always have a soft spot when I hear about the Nudgee community going out to Bell, because I had family out there for many, many years. And so I know how appreciative such a tiny little town like Bell is, where there's barely 200 people who live in the town, appreciate people from Brisbane coming in, and particularly our Cattle Club boys. So well done there. Thank you, Digger, for that great message there, and it is a very important one that we hear about when anyone gets up here and talks about gratitude. And probably the most common quote that I've ever shared with this group, with our school, whenever I've been on assembly, is one by Brene Brown, and where she talks about the difference between privilege and entitlement is the gratitude that we show. You often hear about how privileged you are to be going to Nudgee College, and I've just got a little message that I'll conclude with in relation to that. So thank you very much for that, and there was some wonderful examples of Nudgee spirit that were highlighted there. It was great to see that example of Harmony Day, and the church celebrates many things. Every time we come to Mass, that is called the celebration of the Eucharist. So it's great when there are focused days. Last Thursday, we were in this room here, whilst facing a different way, where we celebrated a feast day, a very important feast day for Nudgee College, that of course of St. Joseph. St. Joseph being the father, the earthly father of Jesus Christ. And Father Maloney, 1985 old boy from Nudgee College, gave a great message about how powerful St. Joseph was, not in what he said, but what he did and what he did not say. So we are very privileged to have that. Harmony Day, of course, and this is Harmony Week that we celebrate here in the Catholic Church, is about accepting all and about welcoming all. And that the ancient roots of the words Catholic means universal. All are welcome. And so I urge you to take up Mr. War's invitation there on behalf of the Mission and Identity prefects, that if you can on Friday morning to get along morning tea to the chapel for the final of our Lenten prayer series. And thank you very much to the boys who have led that. And it's great that that was a student-led initiative that occurred there. On the weekend, of course, I was witness to all of that spirit that Digger spoke so warmly about. I was there on Friday evening at GT, and then back there again on Saturday. And I've got to tell you, boys, it's probably been a long time. We're probably talking over 100 years since so much blue and white flooded that place, where once upon a time those colours were shared by both of our schools. And then the rightful owners of the blue and white became Nudgee College. So thank you to all those who gave up their time to get along there. And I want to just make a point of highlighting two students who, despite the difficulty and the disappointment that was experienced on Saturday in that incredibly tight, exciting, and ultimately not a poor result, but the result that we didn't want to see on Saturday for Nudgee College. But I got in the car after that and drove out to Tennyson. And it's not an easy commute, getting from the centre of town out to Tennyson, with the hope of watching our first 11 cricket team come away with the victory there. And as I was sitting there watching and just contemplating the morning that had been with our volleyballers and watching our boys head to a commanding victory, I did notice that two boys dressed in formal uniform walked along the path and over to the grandstand. So I'd really like to extend a thanks to Ethan, our college captain, and also to Flynn Toomey, who was mentioned before, because despite the disappointment, Ethan led our supporters up in the stands to those wonderful cheers, which created a great environment along with our brother school at Gregory Terrace. Despite that disappointment, he got in the car and went over there. And Flynn, of course, valiantly led our volleyballers. And despite his disappointment, he headed over to support his Nudgee brothers there at Tennyson. So thank you very much, gents, for setting wonderful examples of leaders within the school. I'll just get Mr. Carmody to pop this quote up. I came across this quote very recently. "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And I briefly want to speak, gents, about expectations and the high expectations that we have of you as a student at Nudgee College, and what we hope that you will become and that you will achieve because we have those high expectations. And we spoke about these right at the start of the term. And it's important to note that you are sent here for a reason, to achieve your utter best. So we'd be falling short of our responsibility as a staff if we weren't holding you to those high expectations. So it helps those high expectations, and holding you to them helps to shape the outcomes that you will become, helps for you to attain the goals that hopefully you want to attain. Now, it's not about pressure, us applying pressure to you. It's about us helping you achieve those goals. One thing that we don't like to do is catch people out in doing the wrong thing. And sometimes students who fall short of those high expectations might sometimes feel that that's what's going on. That is not the case. There's not a person in this room who works for Nudgee College who wakes up in the morning and thinks, I hope I can catch some kids doing the wrong thing today. Staff come to work at schools so they can help young people be the best they possibly can, turn into the best version of themselves. So when there are high expectations, you need to understand where that comes from. These everyday choices that you make that relate to effort, to discipline and integrity are all a part of those high expectations. And we encourage you every single day to take your learning, to take your behaviour, and take pride in everything that you do and how you wear the Nudgee uniform seriously. We don't want you just to sail through and think good enough is near enough, right? We want to see you grow in all that you do. And we need to remind you every single day that the gifts you have need to be nurtured. You can't just rest on your laurels. And that's what I continually say at Nudgee. We're a great college, a wonderful school. But the moment we sit on top of the mountain and think, well, we've reached the summit, we're good enough, there's only one way down. So it's always about trying to attain continuous improvement in all that you do. And it's important that that should be individually and collectively. So the privilege that you have of coming to a place every day where we expect highly of you, it shouldn't be seen as a burden. That's a privilege, as I said. And I'll finish with this. The mark of a true Nudgee man is not simply meeting the expectations of others, but holding yourself to a standard that reflects who you are called to become in life. And if you do that, gents, every single day, that's really being true to the blue. Now, before I conclude, I've just, a lot of you would know this, and I've had individual conversations. I know our staff and our parents know about it. I'm actually at the, just after Easter Sunday, I head off on Tuesday to what's called the Edmund Rice Beyond Borders, and I've got a little graphic that will go up on the board. Edmund Rice Beyond Borders Congress in Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina. And I'm very excited about that, obviously, very privileged that I'm able to go on that trip. And the theme of that trip is in the footsteps of Pope Francis. So for those who don't know, Pope Francis, while he passed away as leader of our Catholic Church in Rome at the Vatican, he actually was born of Italian heritage, but born and grew up in Buenos Aires in Argentina. So I look forward to seeing the places that help form the incredible theology and the incredible him into the incredible human that he became. After that, I'll be taking a couple of weeks off, and my wonderful wife will be heading over, and we're going to do a bit of a trip around that. So for the first 5 weeks of next term, and I do apologise to our footballers and our tennis players that I won't be there to support you during that time, but during the first 5 weeks, I'll be away from school. I get back just before GPS cross country. So looking forward to heading to that out at Ipswich. In my place, of course, Mr. Mara will be acting as our college principal during that time. Miss Chin will be acting Deputy Principal during that time, and Miss Becker will move into Miss Chin's position as Acting Dean of Learning and Teaching. So I wish all of them the best of luck and thank them for the work that they will do in my absence. Finally, we also have a big trip heading off. Around about 50 students will be heading this time next week. They will be in South Africa. So to all of our students and extended community members, I know there's a lot of parents and staff who are heading on that trip as well. Best of luck, safe travels to those who are heading over to South Africa. We look forward to hearing of your wins and your experiences upon your return. And finally, to every single one of you, best of luck with your assessments. I look forward to addressing you as a group next Wednesday on our concluding liturgy in the McHenry Centre. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. That leads us to our last item for today, which is the announcement of our winning house for the Interhouse Cross Country. So that we can do our announcement, can I please get all of our house prefects to come and join me up here on the stage? Thank you, gentlemen. As we did with our swimming, we are going to go in order from 9th place all the way through to 1st place. So as we start making our way through, let's make sure we're celebrating each house and their achievement. The turnout on the day was fantastic. The spirit was unreal. The competitiveness of the event was excellent to see. And our point scores were pretty high across the board. So, in 9th place, on 929 points, Barrett House. Just ahead of them on 1,116 points in 8th place, Tierney House. In 7th, only marginally ahead, 1,182 points. Last year's winners, McKenna. Only a couple of points in this one as well in 6th place, 1,196 points, Riley House. Spread yourselves out, guys. 5th place, 1,234 points, was Ross House. And then just shy of the podium in 4th place with 1,321 points, McGee House. Which gets us into the business end. So on 1,348 points, taking bronze was Shaw House. It's a familiar situation. So is Fogarty going to get revenge for the swimming carnival? Or are Duggan going to go 2 from 2? So, in 2nd place, on 1,427 points, Fogarty House. which means Duggan were our winners on 1,481 points. Congratulations, Duggan House. Strong start there from Duggan House, going 2 from 2. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. It has been a very short and sharp assembly, and we'd like to get you into class pretty swiftly, but to do that I need your attention. We're coming into the last few days of term. So before I give you some notices about the end of term, a few highlights for you over the next couple of days. Please remember that Bear Cave is open tomorrow. Then we move into our final round of GPS fixtures this weekend. And you've heard from Digger and Mr. Thompson and Mr. War about Snudgy Spirit, turning up for your brothers, cheering on Nudgy at all of the events that we can possibly get to. You've got one more opportunity to do that this Friday and this Saturday. Please make sure you're turning up. It's a home fixture. There's no excuses to get there and cheer on your brothers there and support them as much as you possibly can. And for our seniors, the last time they represent the college in those particular sports. We also have our football season launch on Friday. For your SF periods on Friday morning, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, you're in SF classrooms, but a notice now, if you are in Year 9, you'll be leaving those classrooms early and making your way to Tierney Auditorium for a brief meeting. You need to arrive in the auditorium for 9:15. We'll email you again to remind you of that, but Year 9, you need to be in Tierney, moving from your SF classrooms for 9:15. Year 12, you'll be in Ryan Hall. Then next Wednesday, we have our end of term liturgy, and we get to send you off to enjoy your Easter break, refresh, recharge after a successful term. Before we make our way out, a couple of things to finish off the term. At the start of the term, I spoke to you about involvement and I spoke to you about high standards. Neither of those things change depending on the time of term. Mr. Thompson spoke to you about it as well just then when he addressed you all. There is no excuse to drop your standards as the term comes to a close. Show your good character, show your engagement, show your enthusiasm for your learning, and show your respect for your teachers, yourselves and your peers over these next few days by engaging in your assessment tasks, studying hard, involving yourself in all of the opportunities that Nudgee College has to offer you. You'll miss it over the break, you'll get to recharge, you'll get to come back and you get to do it all again in term 2. So make the most of it, finish strong and hold those standards. Part of that's not just your own standards. It's the standards of those around you and your peers. The idea of being a bystander is not something that we are at Nudgee College. The behaviour that you walk past is the behaviour that you accept. So if you are seeing boys dropping their standards towards the end of term, hold them accountable for it. It's much more powerful coming from you than it is from us as staff. Make sure that you're modelling the right way, make sure that you're holding your mates accountable, and make sure that you're doing the right thing as we approach the end of term. A couple of ways that we can do that with some small acts around the college. A number of us are just dumping our bags wherever we feel like it, in garden beds, on footpaths, wherever we feel like it at the time. Now individually, you're losing a lot of stuff because of that. Be mindful of where you're putting your bags. We've got designated bag racks outside most of our classrooms here, areas to store your property so that it is safe, that it is visible for you from wherever you may be in the classroom, and that it's out of the way so it's not causing a trip hazard for staff and other students. If you are finding that there isn't somewhere for you to store a bag in a certain area, talk to your captains, talk to your house dean. Let us know so we can address those areas of concern for you. Another act is on our buses and in the health centre. Little things. turning up, showing our respect, greeting the staff there, treating them with kindness, and just turning up with your student ID card to show that you're ready to do the right thing. Speeds up the process for everyone involved. It makes it a much easier experience for everyone, particularly at the dying days of the term. Stay switched on, stay strong in that space. We've also got some newly planted gardens around the chapel. Significant investment, significant effort from our ground staff goes into making sure that this is a beautiful campus for you to attend every day. Make sure that you're respecting their hard work, keeping those garden beds clean of rubbish and clean of foot traffic. A few days to go, gentlemen. Finish strong, keep working hard. Look forward to celebrating the end of term with you next Wednesday. As we start our dismissal, a notice for years 10, 11 and 12. You will all be staying back here for different reasons at the end of this assembly. So if you are in years 10, 11 or 12, stay in your seats as we do our dismissal, and then I'll give you some further directions from there. Okay, for our dismissal, we might start with our winning Interhouse cross country. But before that, thank you, Mr. Wall, for the reminder. We've got our 3 cheers with Matt Spiro. Take a seat, gentlemen. Over to Matthew. Thank you, Matt. All right, as I said before, Duggan House, you are first to depart. Congratulations again. Make your way out through the foyer. Years 10, 11 and 12 remain behind. Fogarty House, second place. You guys can depart as well.